What's up, people? Okay, so today's video, we checking out this video uh, about giants from around the world. Y'all see the description. Many people believe that giants were always around. They actually the ones who built pyramids and things, along with ancient aliens. But I had to check out this video because I wanted to see exactly what they were talking about. It really captured my thoughts because I'm a firm believer that there was giants back then. I'm a firm believer of aliens as well, back then and today. So without further ado, let's just get into this video and check it out.
In our number 10 spot today, we have Fyodor Makhnov. Fyodor was born in June
And yeah, I don't know why it started like that, but that's just what it is.
of 1878 in what would now be modern-day Belarus. As a child, he began to grow quite quickly, measuring 6'7" when he was just 14 years old. He, of course, needed custom-made
6'7" at 14. That's a forward. That's a small forward. He was a small.
clothes and even a custom-made bed, and it is said that his boots were so big that other children could hide in them while playing hide and seek. Because of the times he lived in, as well as his exceptional height, at just 16 years old he began to perform in the circus, where it is said he grew to be 8'2". Someone of this size is
8'2", and that's like the tallest person in the world. Who is 8'2" right now?
going to have quite the appetite. You need a lot of fuel to keep that body going, and it is said that in an average daily
Look at them pants, man. See, that's they dressed like that back then. This is crazy because it's just nuts. It's just
breakfast,
nuts.
he would eat 20 eggs, 8 loaves of bread, and would drink 2 liters of tea. And that's just for breakfast. Scientists would often approach him to ask if he would sign a contract for ownership of his body after he passed, but he always refused because he was afraid that if he signed the contract, he would be killed. Sadly, he would pass away at quite an early age. In 1912, he passed at just 34 years old.
Yeah, you knew he wasn't gonna last long. I'm surprised he lasted that long. Usually people who grow like that have all kind of different diseases and stuff, body diseases, their back hurt, their feet messed up, something. I mean, look at Andre the Giant, a bunch of people. So I'm surprised he lasted till that age, though. That's pretty cool.
He left behind his wife, who was tall for a woman, but at the time still stood 3 feet and 3 inches shorter than him, as well as 4 children. Guys, before
Now, I gotta ask this question. They had kids. I ain't gonna even go.
Before we get into number 9, don't forget to like this video, give it a thumbs up, it really helps us out. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. In our number 9 spot today, we have Bernard Coin, also referred to as Bernard the Giant. He was born in Iowa on July 27th, 1897. His true height is still disputed. Some people say he was 8'2", some say he was 8'4", and some say he was as tall as 8'8". And whichever it really was, Bernard was clearly over 8 feet tall, which, especially in the 1800s, was unbelievable. Bernard's height can be attributed to a rare syndrome called unicoidal infantile gigantism, colloquially known as daddy long leg syndrome.
Daddy long leg syndrome. I've never heard daddy long leg. I've never heard of that. Who's daddy? I think they just making up stuff. No, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Apparently, Bernard's parents for a while would exhibit their son in order to earn money. They'd put him on display, but eventually they stopped because they feared it might put them in the spotlight of God's wrath. I mean, yeah, no worries, don't worry about the effect it would have on your kid, just worry about the wrath of God. As Bernard got older, of course, people wanted to recruit him for the same sort of thing. They wanted him to put himself on display in exchange for money, but he would turn down these offers because he just wanted to live a normal life. Bernard was so tall that during World War I, he was actually rejected by the army due to his tall stature.
Right, you can't hide from people and you that tall. You can't creep, you can't. What are you gonna do? You're just a target. You're a big target at that point. No.
Like many of the people on this list, Bernard would pass at quite a young age. In just 1921, Bernard died at the age of 23. In our number 8 spot today, we have Zhan Shichai. Zhan was born in China in the 1840s, but he would later move to England and tour around, known as Chang Wu Gao. Before his move, however, he grew to be 7 feet 9 inches tall, and he was actually appointed as a member of the emperor's court. His move to England was initially supposed to be just a short trip, but he would go.
It kind of look like Yao Ming a little bit. And I'm not saying it because he's Chinese, but he looks kind of like Yao Ming. Don't they have basketball back then? What kind of sports did they have back then? I'm just wondering.
Go on to stay for 2 years because thousands of people paid 3 shillings just to see him and his tall stature. He went on to tour throughout the rest of Europe as well, and sometimes during his show he would be displayed beside a little person in order to really dramatize just how tall he was. And in 1881 he went on.
What do she have on her eyes? And why come it's not uniformly made? What is that? What?
To join P.T. Barnum's circus. Zhan passed away in 1893, and based on his wishes, although he was loved and had intrigued the attention of thousands, his funeral was only attended by 50 of his friends. It is said that since he was so tall, his coffin measured 8.5 feet long. In our number 7 spot today, we have Adam Rayner. So many of the people on this list started out growing quite tall at young ages, but that couldn't be further from the truth for Adam. In fact, Adam was actually below average height for the beginning of his life, so much so that he was being turned down from the army during World War I because he wasn't tall enough.
So the other guy was too tall. This guy too short. I think he'd make a perfect spy.
Adam was born in Austria in 1899, and at his first attempt to join the army, he was only 4'6". He
Yeah, that is small.
tried to join again the following year but was rejected, and at 19 years old he measured only 4'8". Just a couple of years later, however, at age 21, things would drastically change and he would soon reach a height of 7'1".
What the? How you gonna go from 4'8" to 7'1"? Cat Williams need to figure out what he did.
This fast-paced and late growth spurt caused him some troubles though, because as he grew, his spinal cord curved. Eventually, Adam went on to get surgery to try and stop his pituitary gland from creating more growth hormones, but this did not stop it entirely and merely just slowed the pace at which he grew. His health would continue to decline because of his condition, and it left him blind in one eye, deaf in one ear, and eventually his curved spine left him unable to get out of bed. Adam passed away at the age of 51 years old after.
Well, he did last a long time though, but man, that had to be some pain right there. Growing pains.
Reaching a height of 7'8". In our number 6 spot today, we have Agnes MacAskill. Agnes was born in Scotland in 1825, and it is said that he is quite the anomaly because he didn't have any kind of condition that caused him to grow so tall. He just was. And because of the fact that at birth he was so small, doctors weren't sure if he was going to survive. Agnes might not be the tallest man on this list, but he sure wasn't small. He measured at 7'9", but he was also just a massive person with great strength.
Oh man, some kind of commercial. Let me see if I can fast forward through. I can't fast forward. They don't ban me for that.
Strength, said to weigh 500 pounds and had the ability to lift a ship's anchor. It is said that
500 pounds and he can lift a ship's anchor. You know how heavy a ship's anchor is? Even a small ship's anchor, come on.
Agnes would often receive requests from people who wanted to wrestle him, which is absolutely hilarious, but that one man changed his mind after he shook hands with Agnes, and Agnes continued to shake his hand until it bled. A little dramatic for sure, but I appreciate the effect. In 1849, Agnes joined the circus and would tour many countries before going into real estate and opening a store. In 1863, Agnes passed away as a result of brain fever. In our number 5 spot today, we have Robert Wadlow. Robert was born on February 22nd, 1918, and although he was an average size at birth, by age 5 he was already 5'4". Like, that's almost my height. Imagine an actual toddler walking around the size of a grown-ass man. New definition to the terrible twos. That's just kind of horrifying. try to put him in a timeout, but you have to like square up.
You know that is crazy.
By 17 years old, he was standing at 8'1", making him one of the, if not the tallest teenager ever. His huge appetite had him consuming 8,000 calories a day, but being this tall isn't all glitz and glamour, and it can come with some very serious side effects. He had trouble walking because of his fast growth, and this required him to have braces on his legs as well as use a walking stick. Unfortunately, an ill-fitted brace would eventually lead to his untimely death. In 1940, Robert received a new leg brace that didn't fit properly, and just 1 week later this brace caused a blister. Seems like a minor inconvenience, but this blister went on to become really infected. This infection very sadly went on to take Robert's life at the early age of just 22 years old. In our number 4 spot today we have Anna Haining Bates. Anna was born in Nova Scotia in
A lady. Finally, we get a
August 1846, and by the time she was 22 years old, she was already standing at a height of 7'6". At age 16, Anna went into show business because it was very
That's a big... Nah, I ain't gonna say that, but she is tall. It's kind of interesting though. I'm
clear she was taller than the average female. She began touring around, and in 1865 had a frightening moment at Barnum's Museum when it caught fire and she was too tall to escape through a window. She thought she had met her end because the stairs were on fire, but thankfully she was saved when employees broke the wall and she was lifted out with a crane. In 1871, Anna met another super tall person named Martin Van Buren Bates, who was also known as the Kentucky Giant and who was 7'8". The pair got married and were often exhibited at circuses as the tallest married couple in the world. Anna ended up passing away in 1888 at the age of 41. In our number 3 spot today we have Joseph Edward Beaupre. Joseph is a man who was actually born in my home province of Saskatchewan in 1881, so imagine my shock when I realized that I had never even heard of him before. Joseph's parents were average height, so of course they were shocked when, by age 9, their son had already outgrown them. At the age of 17, he stood at 7'1" and is said to have been able to lift an 800-pound horse.
Man, that's strong. You can lift a horse. And he probably wasn't even a weightlifter. It's just a fact. And see, that goes to show you that giants did exist. And back in the day, like they saying, the pyramids was probably built by giants. I can believe it. You know there had to have been some very tall people back then too. Why would it just be now? Or then, It had to be some tall people back then with some incredible strength. It's probably where the story of Hercules came from.
By the time 1904 rolled around, Joseph was 8'3", and he tried to become a cowboy, but realized this probably wasn't the career for him, considering his feet touched the ground while he was riding a horse. At 21, he joined the circus, but as one can imagine, this took quite a toll on him, and it is said that he was also dealing with tuberculosis at the time, which is just crazy. Sadly, the story takes quite a dark turn as, at age 23, after a performance and after coughing up blood, Joseph went unconscious and never woke up again. The circus refused to pay his burial expenses, and his father was unfortunately too poor to afford it, which meant that his body remained with the undertakers, who began displaying it in store windows and museums. Joseph's body would remain with people who never should have had it in the first place until 1989, over 80 years after his death, when it was finally released to his surviving family members, who then cremated it. In our number 2 spot today we have Patrick Cotter O'Brien. Patrick was born in Ireland in January of 1760, and he grew to be 8'1", which made him one of the first people to be known to grow past 8 feet tall. At 18 years old, he began working as a bricklayer because he didn't need a ladder to reach the top of the cottages like the rest of those he worked with. Like many people on this list, Patrick found himself in a life of show business where he just called himself O'Brien. It is said that he had to travel around in a carriage that was made specifically for him because of his size, and one day when this carriage was pulled over by a highwayman, when this guy saw Patrick, he ran the other way because he was terrified of his large stature. Sadly, Patrick's size took quite a toll on his body and eventually led to his death, which occurred on September 8th, 1806, when Patrick was 46 years old. In our number 1 spot today we have Arthur Kaley. Arthur was born in Sulby, Isle of Man in 1824, and while for the beginning of his life he was average size, in his late teens he suddenly began to grow quite tall, reaching a height of 7'11" and earning the nickname Manx Giant. Arthur was on display at many exhibits because of his height, and
This mistake is costing Amazon Prime shoppers big. Are you still using Prime? Because at this
traveled to places like Manchester, London, and Paris, but suddenly he disappeared. His mother explained that he had passed away and that he was already buried, but people were suspicious because it is said that just a few weeks earlier, his life was insured for $2,000. We still see it today, people committing insurance fraud, so it's not really that far-fetched of an idea, and here's what really happened. Arthur was not dead. He instead had traveled to the United States to join P.T. Barnum's circus. During his time in the circus, he was marketed as Colonel Routh Goshen, the Arabian Giant. It wasn't until his true death in 1889 that his previous life as the Manx Giant was revealed, and the whole story was complete.
Alright, starting this off at number 10, we have Brahim Taki.
Okay, I'm not going to get into another one, but those were some really crazy big people. I mean, tall, strong, young. Some died young, some died old, some were normal, and then they just grew to just astronomical heights. So that means Cat Williams, it could still happen to you. You could still get above 5 feet. Now, let me stop. I don't know how tall Cat is. They say he's really short. I've never seen him in concert. And what's the other? Kevin Hart. I don't know how tall they are, but I hear they're really short. Anyway, alright everybody, look, comment, rate, subscribe. I'm just starting out doing these kind of series. I'm going to do some other things. I'm going to look at some photography stuff. So I want y'all opinion. What do y'all think I should do? What do y'all want to see me do on here? Leave a comment in the bottom and just let me know. Alright everybody, peace.